I would say I have been doing this work for 17 years is when I
Mm.
first officially
Wow.
started taking classes on, like, my first was Reiki. But,
Huh.
like, even years before that, like, starting in 2006, 2007, when I was living in Southern California and I started taking psychic development classes, and I, like, very quickly started having experiences, like, with spirit guides and, like, flashes of images and, like, okay, I mean, I have had experiences since I was a little kid. Like, I have had profound, experiences, like, right away, like 2.5 years old, 3, whatever, the age that you are when you go from your crib to your first bed. That is when
Mhm.
I started having the ability to see beyond the 5 physical senses of, the 5 this time and space dimension, right? Like, the ability to see things, like, when I was that age.
Um,
You know what I'm
would you
saying?
like to go into that a little bit? I'm
Right.
super interested. Okay.
Yes. So I feel like throughout my life, I've been being shown interdimensionability, multidimensional ability. And it's been my life, not like nonstop throughout my life, but periodically throughout my life as I've had these experiences and those experiences. And then the Sasquatch people came into my life and, realized that, oh my God, they've been around me my whole life, blah, blah, blah. Right. I've had periods of time where I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff, but there's always been a background of the interest of the afterlife and healthy psychology and, like, and, like, really into fitness and sports in my life and blah blah blah. But so going back to when, the very first time that I can remember, um this unique experience, and I'll tell you what the experience was. I It was like I was having two different very profound spiritual experiences. And what happened was I woke up, and I'm a 2.5-year-old or 3-year-old, whatever, and I see flames, literally, like, as if you're seeing a fire in a fire pit, the flames, like, doing its thing. But there was no sound coming from it wasn't literally there was my house wasn't literally on fire, but I saw flames. And I was like, "What the wow." And I'm staring at the space between the head of my bed and the wall. That's where it was coming from, right there. Every single experience that you have, like, each of ourselves have, is our own experience to make sense of, to, no pun intended, right? To, like, what does this mean for me? Like, what did that mean for me when I was 2.5 years old, right? You can study what does it
Yeah.
mean when you see flames, but that's coming from an adult perspective, because, it's not going to mean the same thing necessarily, right? And so you have to kind of put the pieces together for yourself. And sometimes that could take literally years. And so, okay, so I had that happen, and then it dissipated and was gone. And then it happened again, but I was dreaming, and in my dream, I was in an airplane, like a jet plane, like a commercial jet plane, like, I don't know, Delta or whatever it was, right? I don't know. But I was about, let's say, halfway back in the plane, and I could see it in my mind's eye, like, right now. I think I was maybe on the aisle seat or the middle seat, because I have this vision of I can see down the center aisle of the plane, and I can see the backs of chairs and the heads of people. And at the front of the plane, the area where you walk into the plane from the door, there was flames shooting up high. There was fire. The plane was on fire.
Yeah.
And I was that age. I had never been on a plane at that time in my life. I had never been inside of a plane at that time in my life. So I have been putting the pieces together for many years about this. And so where I'm at now with it is that either I was having a precognition, or I was having a past life memory, like, bleed through experience. And then
Right.
there was, and I sometimes, like, when you have these experiences, like, did they happen reoccurringly? Like, I know that the fire experience happened many throughout my life, like, into my early teens, I think that it would happen. But the dream, I think it happened a couple times, because I had once where like, did I see my arm on fire? Was there something about that? Was I on fire? And then I woke up and then my arm was under my pillow. And I remember thinking, like, I've had such awareness since a very, very young age, like cognitive awareness. Like when psychologists try to say, oh, as people, we don't develop this or that until we're this age or that way, that age. I totally disagree because I've lived it. And I remember thinking, like, oh, I just had that dream because my arm is warm under the pillow when I'm like 2.5, 3 years old.
Hmm.
So that was the start. Like, I realized that was the start of me having the awareness of seeing, like, what you can call it on the astral plane or whatever. And so, like, I had that reoccurring seeing fire periodically. I mean, even when we moved from that house and went to the other house. And then the last time I remember having that experience was I was like, I've tried to kind of remember, like, how old was I? Like, what age was I? Was I 11? Was I 12? Was I 14? I don't know, somewhere in there, but I woke up. Oh my God. And it was still the same. It was so like real. Holy shit. My bed is on fire. And I go running out into the family room, and my mom is sitting there on the couch. And she just looks over at me for a second. And I'm like, Mom, the bed's on fire. And I'm like freaking out. And then I look at her and she's like knitting or something. Doo doo doo, dee dee dee. And she literally just turned her head back to the TV and like ignored me. And I was like, what the hell? You
Wow.
don't care that the bed is on fire? And then I thought, maybe I'm maybe she knows. Like, I'm like, this is weird. So I went back to my bed. I'm like, it was not on fire. And I just thought that's interesting, right? Like how even after so many times it happening, that it literally is seeing. And so then in my progression, in which I realized a few years ago, I had the same experience Moses had. I saw flames that are not burning the bush. I saw flames that are not burning. It's just literally just an image, but it wasn't like a two-dimensional, like a picture on the wall. I mean, it was literally, I don't know what you call it, like I don't necessarily want to get caught up in it's a hologram, but it
Hmm.
was there. I saw it and then it diminished. So I, that started then. And when I was about 6 or 7, I was laying in my bed in this newer house, this other house we moved to, and all of a sudden I felt energy. This is you try to figure out how to put into words this so that a person can visualize it themselves. But I knew that there was a flowing mass of energy coming through the corner ceiling of my room, like literally that exact corner spot. Which I've been like, there's areas where energy comes in and out through buildings and your body and stuff like that. So obviously
Hmm.
that's a spot. And it started coming into the room and started taking up space in the room. Not like that it covered over me, not like a balloon. It wasn't like woo, 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 but it was kind of like that at the same time. Like it took up the space in front of my bed, between my bed and the dresser and the wall, and then the space in the side of my bed. And it was a feeling of massive, this like a genie coming into a bottle, a
Hmm.
massive energy, not scary, like I think over time, like over the years, people have misinterpreted just because they don't know what it is. But it wasn't scary. It was just like I can feel that this is a ginormous presence that has chosen to come be with me right now. And then soon after that, it was like it awoken me even further, this presence. And then I started having like the precognition, like it really expanded my ESP.
Hmm.
um, and I would have where time, when you have, like, when you're in your developing your inner senses and when you're having these raising your vibration experiences, you will have symptoms. You will have like very interesting symptoms where you will feel maybe dizzy or lightheaded or, things like that. And I don't know, I'm being like 7 years old, trying to be a normal kid in school. And I remember like time would start feeling weird all of a sudden. Like I'd have this rush of like energy in my head or something where I would be like, Oh, it just felt like time was, like, slow.
Yep.
Oh, and it felt I was like, "Oh my god." And then I was, like, sped up. I was like, "What is happening?" That was going on. I started hearing, like, what, the primordial sound of the universe, right? That ohm, that, like, humming,
Mhm.
that sound of silence, but to, like, the max. Like, when you turn up the amp and it's like, "Mm," and I would hear that at night, and I'm like, "What is going on?" Then I started, then had my first seeing a spirit experience around the same time, and so it just heightened my abilities, and so over the years, you try to make sense of it, and I when I went to spiritual studies school, like, in 2015, I did research, and I ended up going to a school in Georgia called Delphi University of Spiritual Studies because I wanted to
Mm.
further develop my mediumship abilities. I wanted to further study metaphysics and have my own healing in my own life from my childhood of stuff and people stuff and, like, raise my consciousness of, these kinds of things, and, um it I was we learned a lot, okay? Oh my god, like, you study so much about the different, um, beings and the realms of like, the realms, right? There's the earth plane, and then you have, that's the lower level is the earth plane, and then it raises the vibration up to, like, the other side where your loved ones are, and then the ancestors and the brothers and the sisters and, like, the beings of light who live on that in that dimension, and then the spirit guides, and then you go to a higher dimension, and then there's the angels, and then, like, you higher dimension and the archangels, and then the ascended masters, blah blah blah, right? We studied all that and how to connect with them and what they look like and how they connect with you. And so, I just have had such profound visualizations and, like, where you're like, I feel that was an archangel. I think there was an
Yeah.
archangel that
You
was
can
visiting me. Oh my God.
you can kind of differentiate the energies after a while.
Yes. Yes. And so also too, when we're doing these, you know, when you're having these experience, in order to really use these abilities and to use these techniques, it really helps having the experience, right? Like, when you have your own experience, then, it's a very experiential experience. And so when we're doing our meditations on connecting with the different archangels, and then I see this flash in my mind's eye of a being that's in outer space showing me the representation of how big an actual archangel is. It's way beyond, like, an artist drawing a man standing there with wings. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
the size of, like, a planet. Like I saw an image of a being that was, like, just a flash being between the earth and the moon in this spot, and it was a ginormous, maybe not as big as a planet. I don't wanna, like, you're trying to, like, figure out how to, let's say, I don't know, a size of a building?
Yeah.
Like, the size of
Okay.
a five-story building, but in this more of a rounder shape of this, it sounds so
Like
bizarre.
a giant pillar of light.
Well, I saw a figure, like, kinda human form-ish, but way large, okay? And so then you try to you meet people who connect with the archangels on a regular basis, and then you're like, "Hey, can you ask if they visited me when I was 7?" "Yeah, sure." And then she's like, "Yes." And then she's like, "It was Metatron and Sandalphon who came to be with you."
I love.
I am really excited to get to know Sandalphon more, actually. I don't know why, because, like, I've been such in so many interests that I've gone down the rabbit hole of so many different things that you can't learn everything at once. It's not possible.
Right. Yeah. There's
So
too
tell me
much.
about Sandalphon. Tell me more about Sandalphon.
From what I know, I mean, I just love the feeling that I get when I connect with that being.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like in my, excuse me, I feel like in my life, it has been, one of my, projects, I guess, if you want to call it that, to embody myself more. It's been very easy for me. A large part of my life, I stayed probably 30% in my body, I want to say. You know, you're
Sure.
just mostly floating around up here trying to deal with
Mhm.
just being here with these energies. And
Yes.
so
I get
from
it.
like I'm holding a big ball of iron right now just to ground
Ooh,
myself.
nice. Here, I wanna show you my
So
selenite that I have right here that I keep with me all the time. Right here. Look. I get it. Look.
oh yeah, I love selenite. I have big chunks like that too. Um, but yeah,
Mm,
that being Sandalphon has been very helpful, connecting me to the crystalline grid, connecting me to the core of Gaia,
okay.
and yeah, it has been really helpful in working with the lower chakras.
Okay.
So like the Earth Star chakra and all the way down, and so
Mhm.
I just get a great feeling from working with Sandalphon.
Awesome. Well, she said to me that what he did for me, what Metatron did for me that day was he placed his that cube that over the top of me for my protection in my life as I moved through my
Hmm.
life and I was dealing with it's like I wanna just come out, it's like sometimes when I wanna just, say my mom was totally mentally ill and I had to deal with that, and then my dad was his own thing, but I've been very thankful when they were their good selves, and I'm saying so it's like I feel weird, like, saying it like that because it's not like I'm trying to be mean about it, but it was my experience. I did
Hmm.
experience a tough childhood. It was, you know, in that way. So, I think I was they were coming to help me, so that I could make it, so that I could, like, get through that part of my life. And then they were, and it enhanced my abilities and it raised my vibration. And that's why I was having these weird, like, what they're called, like, it's called like ascension symptoms when you're having
Yeah, I'm
dizzinesses and
I
like,
can't imagine being a child and dealing with that stuff because you know I'm walking around with like vertigo and
yeah,
uh
totally the
you know
vertigo.
just like
Yeah. Mm,
all the stuff right now, and I feel like a
okay.
sometimes like a basket case.
But you know
So I
what?
can't imagine being a child and
The
dealing
good
with that.
thing is knowing, like, what's happening. Like, when you know, like,
Hmm.
"Oh my god, my vibration is raising right now, and my body is just adjusting to it. How cool. Yay."
Yeah.
Like, so at an early age, then I also was receiving messages of big spiritual teachings, like, spiritual truths, like, with a capital T at, like, 7 years old. So, you know, I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, maybe okay, well, I mean, I have some thoughts I can definitely share. But, like, why at that time? I don't know. Like, probably, I mean, like, it takes time to put it all together. It takes sometimes years of your life to go, why what does that mean and whatever. And so that's I think that the way that the teachers, my guides have worked with me is helping me to ease me into these deep teachings so that I can, if I want to, I can process it and use it in my life for me and for others. And so when I was around, it was like a lot happened when I was about 7. We would go camping in the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is in California, um, in San Jose, near San Jose, Silicon Valley area of the Bay Area, which is about 45 minutes south of San Francisco. And the Santa Cruz Mountains divide that valley from Santa Cruz, the ocean. So, and it's these amazing redwood trees, like, this ferns and the salamanders and the banana slugs and the creeks. So it's just amazing scenery. And my dad worked at Hewlett Packard, and so he did the whatever he did for the company picnics. So if you worked at Hewlett Packard, you could camp up there. And so we would go there and we'd be the only ones there. And I do not know how much land that they owned, but it was a lot of land in the middle of the Santa Cruz Mountains near Big Basin State Park, which is also just, that area of the world. There's no bear. It's very safe. You don't have any really scary animals. I guess, I mean, I never really thought about it for years, but there are mountain lions and, coyotes. But like, my experience was so gentle. Like in all my years, nature experiences have been so gentle to me and loving and welcoming and, all that stuff. And so I would go wandering around by myself, out there. And this one day I was walking down one of the dirt roads, just totally in peace, just enjoying the day. It was maybe a summer day, and maybe there were some blue jays singing, doing their thing off in the distance, and there was a meadow on the left side, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I received a download of information. Like, and over the years, you learn, like, what does that mean? A download of information, like literally, like, bam, out of nowhere, you are receiving a ton of information at once. And it was a combination of, in my mind's eye, I couldn't see it, but it was one of those using your inner knowings, where there was like, they were showing me like a beach ball sized ball out in front of me. And it was moving kind of like how the earth just moves. It spins. It's moving. It's moving in a forward momentum. And the message was, this forward momentum is this perpetual forward momentum is what is animating everything. This is what animates everything. This perpetual forward momentum. And then the next message was, this here in nature, or nature, the wind, the trees growing, the grass growing, the birds, the currents, the elements, all of that is more of what reality is than being back in town with the man-made stuff, those constructs, the watch on your wrist that tells you you have to be here and there, and then, like, you got to wear these clothes and you wear those things, and when you live in that state you do those things, and when you're in that country you do that, all these sort of man-made stuff. And then, like, I remember, like, right after that, and then going back down into town, and then you see billboards, and it's like, I'm 7 years old knowing, like, that's just an advertisement. That's just like their own way in psychology of having you buy that thing. And so since I've been 7 years old, I've been sort of in this awareness of, like, this illusion, this robotic life that we live. Like, we do this when it's July, and then all of a sudden, like, we go and buy stuff and we put it on our Christmas tree when it's this time of the year, like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I learned that when I was 7. Um,
Wow.
and so that was sort of like a big teaching all of a sudden. And then I don't remember how long after that, I was in my parents' bedroom, and all of a sudden, here comes another download of information out of nowhere. And at the same time, I had this feeling that there were a group of people in an area where they're above me to my right. And then when you're studying about spirit guides, and when you're studying about who is it that's visiting you right now, because sometimes the grandfather will be to your left, and then the mother will be to your back, and then above you, or whatever, like these sorts of things. And like, these beings was a group of them, and they were kind of up to my right. And all of a sudden they were teaching me that, do the right thing even when you're by yourself, because it will make you have a very strong conscience. And then you're not really alone, though, because we're watching you. See what you're doing. You're being watched over. You're being watched over. We're with you.
Hmm.
It was amazing. And
Yeah.
I did not grow up. My parents were totally non-religious, like totally non-religious. But we lived in an area, and I went to school with people, and my sports friends and families, it was very Catholic and Jewish. I had a best friend
Hmm.
that was Jewish. They invited me to their house all the time. I am so thankful to them. And then I had a best friend that was Catholic. And then I went to CCD like a couple times with her, but I went to temple a lot. So these loving, kind people who were not forcing their views down my throat. not one time, not one time in all my life growing up around these people did they bombard me with the Lord or like Jesus. And like, sorry, I get like super fired up about this because, but it allowed me to have my own thoughts. We all need to have our own thoughts. Like, we all need to be allowed to have our own thoughts. It's so important. I mean, like, I feel like I definitely had like a very neglectful childhood. Like, they were not there for me emotionally, like 99.99999% of the time. I never
Mm.
was told I love you or like affectionate and all that stuff. But the good side is I got to have my own thoughts about so many things. And then so these, hi Manny, sorry. So these,
Oh
I was
no,
able to
I love Manny.
thanks. Yeah, I was able to receive a lot of guidance because so that I realized at some time when I was like fifth grade, I'm like, I feel like I'm spiritual, but I don't know what that means. But I think I'm spiritual because I'm not really caught up in that religious teaching or that religious teaching. I'm more of like a putting it all together. Like, where is the common denominator in like what these teachings are supposed to be about? And I took on that interest and like it was very clear to me like from a very early age each place no, wherever you're coming from around the world, it's supposed to be about being good to yourself and to others. Like how like maybe at that time like there were people that were being horrible to each other. And like here comes these teachings of like that you know what I mean? Like it's just how to be
Oh,
a good person
absolutely.
to yourself and to others. There's like that's what Jesus was teaching. Like that people get caught up and I do not. Like whoever wants to get on here and start making comments about religious stuff, no thanks. I will delete your comment. I will hide it because that's not what this is about. Like this isn't about that kind of stuff. This is
Right.
about a broader understanding of like who we truly are. Like and all that stuff. But yeah, so I had that going on in my early years, but I was very athletic. I'm so thankful my parents got me involved in sports. Super athletic. It gave me a super very positive outlet of dealing
Mm.
with the total dysfunction that I was dealing with at home. Like, and I'm so thankful that I got to be around all these very kind, welcoming, loving families that helped me to see like what it's like living in somewhere where the kid's voice is okay to be, that they want to hear what you have to say and that kind of thing. So that was going on, and I'm going to now skip for a little bit to go to the Bigfoot subject because I really want to talk about that. I
Oh,
just
sure. I
it's
I love me
amazing.
some I love me some Bigfoot.
So we'll go back. So the Sasquatch people, I like to call them the tree people because that's how I was introduced to them. Like
Oh, okay.
there's a tribe, the nation. I want to make sure I'm using the right respectful words to describe the people that were in the range of Mena, Arkansas, who were teaching the Native American people from that area who are teaching this couple who have this land in Mena, Arkansas. It's an area called Board Camp Crystal Mine, and the Sasquatch people travel and go on their land. And I went there because I wanted to go dig for crystals, and this was in 2018. And I love to go to places where the ancient people lived and where they did their ceremony because I love connecting to positive energy. I absolutely love feeling that high vibration, that just floaty bliss feeling. There's nothing like it in the world.
Mhm.
Like
I get
me,
it.
it's like, I want it all the time. And so I just like I love connecting with the ancient people. I love going to places where there's been multiple paranormal experiences on the land. There's been UFOs there. The Sasquatch people are there. The native people asked if they could do their ceremony on their land because they consider it sacred land. Crystal digging, you know what, whatever, all the different things. So I went there, and I was not going there for the Bigfoot. That's what, at the time, the Bigfoot. I I had really hardly ever given that any thought. Like hardly, but when I did give it thought, it was big thought. Like one of my very first thoughts about them was that they have to be interdimensional and cloak. Like they have to be. Like there's no other option. Like to me, that was the most logical sense. Like that occurred to me out of the blue. Like that was my very first thought. Like
Hmm.
way even before I went to meet in Arkansas. Like in a flash of just thought about it, and then I went back to probably thinking about metaphysics and ghosts and like whatever else I was thinking about, right? But so he told me that the tribe of the area, that they call them the tree people. And when he said that to me, oh my God, it was sort of like a movie moment where all of a sudden I was like, oh, like, oh my God, just it somehow made me think about all these different flashes in my life of being in the woods and like the feeling of such peace that I have had in the redwoods and in the country and the mountains. Just and then and then I started having these flashes in my mind of like seeing these long branches stacked next to each other against a tree, like a redwood tree,
Hmm.
like 30 of them, almost like a picket fence, but not the this bar. It was just all, and I would see that. Like I don't know, like let's
Parallel.
yes, there you go, thank you. Like I don't know, let's say 5 different times in like in a range of time in my earlier life, growing up and being a kid, and then like in my 20s when you're being with your friends and you go down that dirt road way out there and then you're drinking around the bonfire or whatever, like different, or mountain biking, and then you come around the corner, or you're like on a hiking trail that's kind of near a creek, and like so seeing these the long, like that parallel stacked up branches like there. And I mean, I would think things like, what is there, like some pagans out here like doing some sort of like some pagan ceremony, or like is it the Boy Scouts, is it the Girl Scouts, is it just teenagers, whatever reason, like stacking up sticks, like, and so when so that flashed through my mind. And then I remember this one day walking along in the woods and coming upon this tree, and it wasn't a redwood tree, it was just some like random weird, like maybe more of a smooth barked tree, and it was growing at these sort of strange angles. And as I'm walking past it, I remember thinking, something seems weird about the way that that's growing. Like unnaturally, not naturally. Like it was manipulated to grow that way, kind of thing. And so that was in 2018, and he showed me an area of the land that he called the nursery. And that's what the native people called this area in their woods, where he said that the older tree people, I'm just going to almost speak verbatim what he said. The older tree people would take the younger tree people to this area of the woods called the nursery, and they would teach them and like show them how to manipulate the little saplings and how to do it.
Mm.
And so they were learning how to make these markers in the woods. And then he said that there's other areas farther, way deeper in the woods, that where they're big structures, really big trees that have grown up over the years and now are really big. And I was like, wow. But that was I say that on purpose, my experience, to be taught, to be shown the small, the younger people, the younger tree peoples, um, manipulations, and like I remember seeing like a tree growing like an elbow, like sorry, my oh my God, I
Mm.
need to work out. But like an elbow in the tree, like bent up and like at these different angles. And it's not like I was all in like right away. Like I wasn't like I was like, this is strange. I had no idea that's what he was going to talk to me about. I was like, what? Like, okay. And then he was showing me like a little sapling pulled down with a log over the top. Like he was showing me these specific things that I had never given any thought to in my like life. Okay.
Hmm.
So that's important, because later on then when you go back home, which then I went back to Georgia, and I started seeing things, like all of a sudden your eyes are opened, right? Like you've now been allowed to see that. I think that's part of it. Like, you're
Yeah,
now
I do
being
too.
allowed to see. And when I got back home, and then so that was, like, whatever, August of 2018, maybe a couple months after that, I was walking with a friend at a state park in Georgia, and there was a tree trunk that was, like, let's say, 1.5 or 2 feet in diameter, sitting parallel up in a tree that was, like, I don't know, 10 feet up or something. And I'm like, how the F is that possible? What? And then you're like trying to make sense of it. I'm like, okay, well, all right, there was a storm here like a year ago, but that would be from a tornado or something. And like, really, would it really land perfectly like that? Like, and I'm like, okay, well, they're not going to hire a crane out of nowhere. Let's put this trunk of a tree right here and leave. Like, they're not going to do that. So that was my very first thing I saw when I came back that was very clear, like, okay, this is different. And then I found this really, like, small nature preserve with some trails in it that was about, let's say, I don't know, it was on the outskirts of Savannah and in the woods, in the forest, off of a country highway, a 2-lane highway with just packed with those tall pines. The tall pines and lots of shrubbery in between, but then there was some trails. And then I went out there and I started noticing like the dead trees. That there was something about the way they were leaning and just being in the forest. It really stood out. I'm like, okay, I'm new to Georgia, of this part of Georgia, and I haven't seen any crazy weather. Like, is there some way that the weather did this? But again, it was that thing that piques you, like your inner senses are like, doo-doo-doo-doo, like there's something
Mm,
unique going on out here, right?
yeah.
And I started as like I have a YouTube channel called Exploring the Paranormal, and I had started it, I don't know, like let's say, I don't know, like 2016 or something, and I was filming myself hiking out there. And I was talking about spirit animals, like the times that I've seen spirit animals. And then all of a sudden I'm like looking and I see like an arch and I'm seeing weavings of the trees. And I'm like, and I talk about it on there on the video. I'm like, what? Whoa, do you guys see this? Is this normal? Like, right. And so I started noticing, oh my God, they're out here. Like there's evidence of the tree people out here. No way. And in my starting to binge listen to different people's, what are people experiencing with these tree people? I had no idea. And I found Dixie Cryptid and I started binge listening to him telling these super unique stories. And the ones that really, really resonated with me were the ones where there's like this connection with them, like a very positive experience where they're being, where the female Sasquatch has come out of the woods to come help the girl who hurt her ankle and like brought over some sort of like leaves to wrap her ankle in, and like these amazing wonderful experiences that people are having with these amazing like magical beings. And I'm like, oh my. And then to think that they are truly real. There was something about that made me like that made life feel so exciting to me. And so I had already been studying how to connect with nature like on a deeper way already. I had already been learning from Paul Selig and his guides on how to see through the eyes of Christ, right? See through the highest level of awareness and doing all these saying things that the vibration of what you're saying is going to connect you with the highest level of energies. And then I started having where I was like empathically starting to where I felt a plant. Like, it sounds so weird, but around this time I was, my I had a side work where I would help water the plants, the live plants that were around the hotels in downtown Savannah and over in South Carolina. And I this one day she said, "Hey, will you go over with me to South Carolina to this resort and help me water some of the plants over there?" I'm like, "Sure." So we go to this resort, we get out, and we're at an outdoor a pool with the lounge chairs around the pool and potted plants. So she asked me, "Can you go over and water that potted plant over there?" And as I'm walking over to the plant, I felt the plants I felt what the plant was feeling in that moment. Like it was,
Mm.
whoa, like when you're learning about how your inner senses work and that you will just randomly have a new experience all of a sudden, that was one. And I'm like, it was like walking up to a dog that has been sitting in a cage and it's excited that you're coming over to talk to it. That's what it was like. It was like, yay, thanks for coming over to water me. It was like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible. Like, wow. Also studying from shamans, studying from the medicine people. Like, everything has a consciousness, everything is alive. And that you can connect to every single thing, whether it's a wall or a chair or a plant or, everything. And I'm like, I want to experience that. I want to have every day of my life mystical experiences that are super amazing, super wonderful. I want to have experiences with all the beings. I want to that's like all the different thoughts I was thinking. So that was going on. And in that area of that, it's called this little nature preserve. It's called Blue Sky Preserve. And so after me studying all these different ways of connecting to nature spirits, I consider that the Sasquatch people are a nature spirit. They are guardians of the forest. I don't have all the answers of every single thing of every single one of them, of what every single one of them is about, but they definitely have the human DNA. And if you take our top human beings who have lived the life of the most purest way and taken the utmost care of themselves and physically and mentally and emotionally and psychologically, and they haven't been distracted by technology in any way, you have those. And then, so they have that side of themselves, like the most highest, like inner senses developed side of that human being of their DNA. And then you have their alien or, not of this planet supernatural side of that themselves. So then so yeah, of course they're going to be able to do amazing things, you know? Like
Yeah.
we have people on this planet that can bilocate. Okay, so people need to realize that this kind of stuff is not new. It's been known for thousands and thousands of years. If you want to know it, the information is there for you and you can learn it too, like so human beings can do amazing things. And so you take their human side, that DNA, and then, what you get what I'm saying. Like they can do things. And so
Okay.
I decided this one day after like listening to all these podcasts, like, oh my God, I really want to connect with them. I want to learn from them. I want to be friends with them. I want to know them and I want to be able to teach people about it and I want to learn from them and I want, blah, blah, blah. So I went out to the Blue Sky Preserve and I decided that I was going to talk to the trees, to and through the trees, like the trees are microphones. I decided that the trees are going to be
Mhm.
microphones, and I'm speaking through the trees, down through the roots, down and talking to the entire planet of the Sasquatch people. And I cried and I said, "Thank you for being with me in my life, and I want to know you. Will you teach me? I'd like to be friends with you. I want to have a reciprocity with you, etc." I swear, like within a couple days, I heard the owl vocal and then a response. And then a couple days after that was my first hearing what I call the man yell vocal.
Mm.
And that was about a half hour from Blue Sky Preserve. So I heard it on my friend's land where he owns 8 acres, and then his cousin owns 8 acres, and then the aunt, and then the sister and the brother. So they like this lots of land out in Ella Belle, Georgia, in the true country, very close to the Ogeechee River. And so was this Blue Sky, not far from the Ogeechee River. So let's say I'm just going to make up a day. Let's say I heard my first man yell, which was literally okay. Here's another thing that I am so excited to be able to talk to you about. The that that they have that vocal, that exact tone of their vocal, which is literally the AH sound, which corresponds to the heart chakra,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
the more down the rabbit hole you go with understanding that they are healers, that they are shamans, that they are very connected to the heart. They know your heart. And so, I mean, again, this is me putting this together over the time, like, oh my God, like the sound is like, ah, like that. But it was like a man, like a deep, masculine male voice out of nowhere over like 5-minute walk over that part of the woods where there's literally no one over there. And a neighbor, okay, so on my friend's land, his brother's land is next to his. And so his brother was allowing a guy to live on the land in his camper. And I don't know why, but I was very curious to talk to that guy to ask him if he had been having any experiences. Because I was at the very tip of learning about the Sasquatch people. I was very already for years of my life into connecting to spirit in a good way. You know, like I was one of the reasons why I wanted to move. I wanted to go see, I wanted to go to places where there's other ancient people or historical lands where you might be able to learn from, the people who lived there. And I have had some
Mhm.
amazing experiences with, I feel like, and I don't want to call them slaves, the people um who helped out, which I try to say it in in his most respectful way, but they may have been paid. I don't know what time frame I'm picking up on, but like these people, these colored people of color, of probably African descent, who lived close to the river, who I was picking up on, like that this feeling of, I think that they lived close to this area where all these specific big oak trees that I think were planted, whatever. And so I was already like into that. The family had told me that somewhere on the land is an Indian mound that they don't know exactly where. So there's been a
Mm.
lot of stuff that has gone on that land. And I was starting to see tree structures and and things like that. So I went over to talk to him. I'm like, I wanted to ask him, like, are you having any experiences out here? And he was like saying, yeah, I hear knocking on my door. And I'm like, okay, is that a spirit or is that the Sasquatch people? Right. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I felt like I was kind of pushing him to talk to me, but I was like, I was like doing my investigation mode. Like, I got to know. And so we're standing outside, and this was like, let's say maybe in July or August. And it was the time of the day where it's right before dusk. And then all of a sudden, the insects are like singing in the trees, right? Like they come on. All of a sudden, they're like, "Meow," doing their thing in the trees.
Yeah.
And so we're standing out in amongst the oak trees and stuff. And he's standing about, let's say, 15 feet in front of me. And all of a sudden, ah, like this band yell voice out of nowhere. And he looked at me like it scared him. And I don't know, like I didn't ask him. Like I wish I would have asked him, is that the first time you've heard that? But instead I pretended like I didn't hear it.
Mm.
All I know was like it was another one of those puzzle pieces that changed my life. Like hearing the guy say the tree people, that was sort of like that moment. And then this moment of like, oh my God, oh my God, he's vocalizing, like right there. And then the 2 days
Mm-hmm.
before that, when I'm walking around on the land, and then I hear like a whoa, oh, like this, like that's not an owl, but it sounds like an owl. And then
Right.
so it was like whatever. Here they were on this area of the woods, and then like the return call, and then the couple days later the vocal. Okay, so that was, let's say, on a Tuesday. I don't know. So then like the next um so when I was talking about how in 2018 when I went to Mena, Arkansas, and I was introduced to them, and it blew my mind. It like changed my life forever, knowing that they exist, and the way that the husband taught me was he said that they know your heart, and then so he had said, okay, he showed me around some different areas in the forest. He showed me about the nursery, and then he said, if you want to just wander around, you can. If you want to sit and meditate, there's a picnic table over here out in this meadow. And sometimes people will sit on this picnic table. And if you sort of just let your eyes just sort of go like slightly, off focused,
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to see them come out from the tree line. And I was like, wow, I was just blown away. And so the fact that here's this man, like that was my introduction, was of these special beings that know your heart and know who you are, and this sort of thing. And so when I started listening to Dixie Cryptid and like, different, all these people's experiences, I started having flashbacks from my life of these two specific experiences at different times in my life where I was like, oh my God. And so in 1996, I went on a fishing trip with a boyfriend. I was 26, and we drove from California to Idaho, to the mountains of Idaho, and we fished along the Lochsaw River. And I grew up total tomboy, like
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to fish when I was like 3, like with a little pole and like flailing it
Yeah.
around. And I mean, my
Me
dad was a
too.
super outdoors guy, like
Mm-hmm.
so I learned about all this stuff when I was little. Like so all that stuff was something that I already knew, like fishing. When I was 7, that's when my parents were teaching me about how to shoot a gun, and we'd go to the range and whatever. And so he,
Right.
at his age of 26 years old, was wanting to become like Mr. Mountain Man and like learn how to fish and hunt and all that stuff. And so, and like I was one of the girls at school, like everybody knew how athletic I was. And so it was weird to me that he was all pissed off at me that I was good at things. Like you've known me since 7th grade. Like this isn't like new. But so he was, I think, annoyed that I was catching all the fish, and then he wasn't, and instead he kept snagging his line and losing his lure, and like, and I think he was being in a bad mood, like he was having his own bad mood, and so he decided he wanted to go to the store to go get more lures, and that would have been like a 26-mile drive.
Oh,
And
wow.
this day was so nice out, and we were down inside this little canyon on off of this, like right off of this paved road that no other car went past all day. It was a very remote part of the Idaho mountains. And so I said, I'm going to stay. It was so nice out. It was like, I don't know, August or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I the way where this experience happened, we pulled off along like the side of this winding paved road, where it's an area where you go down the embankment, which on that side of the embankment was, they had, whoever designed this part of the river, they had placed those like small boulders all along that side of the embankment, or the levee, or whatever you want to call it. And it went all the way, like a long ways down, like a long ways on that side of the river. And then the river, and this part of the river was, I could tell it was a very deep section. because the color of the water, and then it was moving kind of slowly, and it was about, let's say, 40 feet across. I mean, I've literally tried like my best to like measure it out like in my mind, and like where you step off the curb in a neighborhood, and then you put one step in front of the other, and then you go all the way across to the other side of the street. It was kind of like that. I guess I've tried to like wrap my mind around the width, I guess, the width of the one side of the river to the other. And then on the other side of the river was this amazing sand beach, like very pretty scene, like just untouched looking.
Hmm.
And then kind of going back from the beach, continuing away from the river, it started pretty quickly like an uphill slope, like a pretty steep uphill slope. I mean, it wasn't a cliff face. A person could walk it, but it was kind of steep and just went up the ridge. And then the trees were very tightly packed together, these pine trees. So he left, and I'm like, okay, I better look around me, look behind me. Okay, behind me on the other side of the road was a just like a cliff face, a a just a sheer like mountain that was like just straight up about 30 feet, and then trees like this. We were like trees for days, just we were out there, we were in a remote
Yeah.
part of the mountains. And so I look behind me, there's no mountain lion gonna jump on me. Okay, great. And then I turn and look across the river, and on the left side of this sand beach I see a tracks of footsteps, and like all the way from the river up to the tree line. And I was like, and at that, okay, I was 26. I wasn't thinking about Bigfoot at all. And so the only thing in my mind that made any sense was those are bear, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
like, that's all my mind had to go on. And
Sure.
so, and this experience happened really fast. It was like I looked behind me, I looked in front of me, there's the footsteps, and then I was thinking to myself, that's a bear, or is that a bear? Because what else could it be out there? And then all of a sudden, and it was pretty quiet because, and again, like a lot of people talk about this where it's really quiet, there's not even any birds chirping. It's like when you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's not weird. It's not weird for there to be no sounds. You're in
Yeah.
nature. Trees don't talk to you. Like there's no like sounds to be made. Like, you know what I mean? And it's
Oh
not like
yeah.
there's always birds around to chirp. So I've had that many times in my life growing up, going to the mountains, going to the country. It's sometimes super quiet. So it
Hmm.
was like that. It was super quiet. And all of a sudden, I hear this really loud, like tree crack sound, like crack. It just like echoed through this little canyon. And of course, my eyes immediately went up to where I was like, where did that come from? And it was like coming up, going up this steep embankment, about like, let's say 50 yards up, like kitty corner. And when I looked up there was like a small opening in the trees, like a tiny little meadow. And then right above that little tiny meadow where it continued with just packed with trees, that's around where I heard the tree crack. And then I started hearing like this swishing sound. Like all I could wrap my mind around was as if maybe a bear, for some reason, was standing up there and pushing a tree, and like it going shoo, 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 whoosh, whoosh, like sound. Like, and my eyes were just like staring so intently up there, like, oh my God. And is now a bear gonna now start coming down into that opening? And I just was staring, and then it just it returned back to quiet again. And then it was like I forgot about it. Like I just went. It's really interesting when I think about that. I've always felt so comfortable in nature. I just literally went back to enjoying myself. I gave it not
Hmm.
another thought. And then an hour went by, or whatever it was that it took him to go from the store and come back, which I had guessed it would be about an hour. The next thing I know, he came back, and I said, look at those footsteps over there. Look at that. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember at that time, the disposable cameras were a big deal. So I had my
Mm.
disposable camera, and I remember you have to like spin the little dial to get it ready, and then you go click, to take your picture. And I did take pictures of that trip, but at a time in my life, like years later, I had a whole like plastic storage bin with all my pictures in my life in this storage bin. And in 2010, my mom, we talked about earlier, her issues, she stole a lot of my things and my dad's
Mm.
things like at that time. So I hardly have any pictures at all of myself. I have a little bit, but not a ton. So I had to get over that. Like that took me some time to like
Mm.
grieve or get over that happening to me. But yeah, so I don't have the pictures, but I did take a picture of the scene of the footsteps. So that happened in 1996, and that flashed through my mind as I was listening to all these people talking about their stories, where they were at when they had their experience. And then it just made me feel like, when I realized, I'm like, oh my God. And this is what I feel. Because, I feel that their senses are so heightened, and they have telepathy abilities and the ability to know what I'm thinking and feeling at the moment that I'm looking behind me and then I'm looking in front of me and all that stuff. I feel like he was saying to me that those are my footsteps and I'm right here. I'm up here. That's me. That's me. Not to scare me at all. And like one guy thought that it was like a territorial thing. No. No, if it was a I can't say it, territorial thing, it would have been a scary vibe. Like, get out of here or whatever, right? Like,
Right.
it wouldn't
Plus,
have
I
been
mean, how
like,
is he going to be threatened by a little lady
right,
in the woods? Like, come on,
exactly.
really?
The feeling I felt was peace and relaxed after that initial, like, is that a bear? Oh my God, is a bear gonna all of a sudden gonna come back down and come out, and then what, right? And then,
Mm.
you're putting it together, and I feel the possibility that he might have been on my side of the river when we were coming around and getting ready to stop, and might have swam across and then ran up and hid up in that area.
Mm.
I mean, or it could have just been that I mean, obviously we happened to go in this exact spot where he was. He could have had just come down to the water and then, but I didn't see. It wasn't like tracks coming and going. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't
Mm.
like it was just dun 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 dun. I don't know.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So so
Yeah,
that
I mean, sometimes I feel like they play. I feel like that's what happened with me. I started seeing these teeny tiny little footprints out in the woods in the snow in like February and March out here, and it
oh cool.
I never even thought to take a picture of it because it blew my mind so
Hmm.
much. I was like, I can't even process this. What is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what kind of like weird hippie lady would take her barefoot toddler out out on this logging road in the middle of nowhere, you know? And I kind of just like filed it away because I couldn't process it, and
Hmm.
I'm still kicking myself for not taking pictures of that. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's what initially got my interest. And
Okay.
so I feel like they place them there for us to see sometimes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's more to say, and I feel like that in my journey with them, as so that was in 1996, and it took me until like 2018 or 2000, and then coming into 2019, where that's when I was like, I want to know you. Will you teach me? I think they were finally like, finally, because I feel like they've been gently getting me to a certain point to
Mm.
not freak me out, you know?
Yeah.
So in 2000, I think it was 2006. I was like, was it 2005? Was it 2006? What was I doing in my life? I think it was in 2006. I was living up in Northern California above Sacramento. And I went mountain biking with a guy that I just started seeing. And I was super excited to meet this guy that was really cool. And that he also had, like, he really was really into mountain biking. So, we went up to Auburn. We went up higher in the elevation above Sacramento, up 80. And I cannot remember like where exactly we went. Like, I don't know exactly the name of the trail. I don't remember
Mm.
exactly, but I know there was a certain like range between like maybe the confluence, where these rivers come in. It's called the confluence, and then before the town of Colfax. So like between this certain area of range of mountain land, like off of the main highway 80. And this particular trail was what's called a single track trail, but so it wasn't like, and that's like to me, like, that means if you imagine a truck that's four wheels, that this is more like, half the distance of, like, not a fire road where like a whole, like, literally like a fire truck or like a utility truck could fit on that road. It was half that, let's say,
Mm.
wide, but not like so, and it wasn't so overgrown, type trail, but it was a very nice
Mm-hmm.
trail. And it had all sorts of different um some of it was flat, some of it was where you had to crank up the hill, and some of it was downhill where so it had a whole lot of fun little ups and downs, and it was a really fun trail. And
Mm-hmm.
so this next experience happened when I was mountain biking on this trail, and I was first. He was a couple minutes behind me, and so on this particular section, it was sort of like winding a left curve and a right curve, and it was a flatter section. It was just a very, very pretty scenery, lots of greenery, and we were down inside the trees. And so we were at like we were on like a ridge that was like this, but the trail was flat going along it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So to my left there was an uphill slope, and then to the right was a downhill slope. Not super, not like steep, like you could fall off a cliff or something like that. Not like that, but it was,
Okay.
like that, let's say. And just lots of trees in there, dead leaves and pine needles on the ground. And it was also like, summertime. And I come around this left curve, and all of a sudden this furry animal, which, at the time I say it like that because that was all my mind had to go on, was that a bear ran across in front of me really fast.
Hmm.
And it went from right to left. And it was, I don't know if you can hear my dog like drinking water out of a bowl right now. That sound is annoying
Oh,
sometimes
it's
when you have to
okay.
hear it. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so it was like almost like as if he was just standing on the edge of the trail on the right side, and then chose at that exact moment to just dart quickly in front of me. Not like so
Mm-hmm.
close that I was like he cut me off or something like that, but like, I don't know, 20, 30 feet in front of me. So right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then went across the trail and then was gone. And then there was this lingering scent that smelled like musky, horsey like scent, like a sweet, almost like a horse scent ish. I think he was
Okay.
leaving his pheromone for me. So as I found this topic and started listening to, different things and putting it together and like gathering information myself, there were some different things that made me look back at that experience and go, wait a second. Because then I started like really seeing that flash in my mind of what I saw. And what I saw was like a fur rug go past me, like right in front of me. And it
Mm-hmm.
was very thick, almost like this color of my hair. Very, very thick hair that was like 2 inches or 2.5 inches thick. Or let me think. Okay, that's like, say, an inch. Yeah, like maybe 2 inches or so thick. And it had like a wave. It was wavy. And I've never
Hmm.
heard anyone else say that, but that's what it was. That's what I saw. It had like a S curve in the hair.
Wow.
And and so also like the width of what I saw was like like I would say 3.5 to 4 feet long, and then 3 feet or so long. So
So
like a
basically like a hairy box just flew past
yes.
you.
Oh my
I've
God, thank
seen
you.
No,
Yes.
it's funny. It's funny because I've seen something very similar, and this was in October. Last October, I went out to a cabin in Wisconsin,
Okay.
and I was with my family, and we were watching a movie. It was probably about 9:30 or something at night, and there was a glass patio sliding door that led out into a backyard, and it's in the middle, it's in the woods, it's pitch black, and so we're watching a
Yeah.
movie, and then it's like the TV's right here and the glass sliding door is right
Hmm.
there,
Okay.
and I started feeling all of a sudden like my crown started tingling, my
Oh my
hands, my
God. Yeah.
feet, my chest, and I'm like, "Bleh." And my dogs pop up and they're like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "It's okay, it's just our friends, no big deal." And but I was, I was definitely feeling it. And then I looked out the window, or out the glass sliding door, and it was like the same thing, but it was moving slowly, and it's almost like it materialized in, like it phased in and it
Okay. Yep.
glided past, and then
Yes.
it phased out, and it was like a big rectangle, like a big
Yes.
furry blob
Oh,
rectangle,
oh my
and
God.
like the hair was like almost the same color as yours, and I
Wow.
I joke with my wife, I was like, it was like snuffleupagus fur,
Oh my God.
remember Snuffy
Yes.
from Sesame Street, how he was invisible to
Snuffy.
everybody but Big Bird. So
Yes.
oh, I saw Snuffy, but
Oh my
yeah,
God.
it was really
Thank
that's
you.
really similar. But it's like
Yes, it
for
is.
me, it's like it like phased in and moved past, and then phased
Okay.
out, and it was
Yes.
so I don't know. I mean,
Oh,
I know who it was, but
yeah.
it was so weird that it's like it came in and then it
Hmm.
came out. So I don't
Yep.
know. Anyway, I just mentioned
Yes.
that for
Oh my
because it seemed
God. So
relevant.
yes, it was like a rectangular. The way I've described it is, if you I go, imagine there's a fur rug on the ground, and you grab it and then you pick it up and you're holding it like
Mm-hmm.
this, so it's laying like dangling down, and then that just went shoo right in front. And
Yep.
so what I feel is like right there in 2006, he's like, I'm going to show you my interdimension ability right now. Here I am. I'm going to teach you about me right now. This is your another introduction on us. And so he was purposely, like, again, like I have had where I have the podcast, and then I get off the air and then they start talking, and then they're like deciding on what my experience was. And that pisses me off. I'm like, oh, I think it was blah, 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 blah. I'm like, but I didn't say that's what it was, right? Like he's like,
Mm.
it sounds like he was like trying to materialize. I'm like, no, he was choosing to show himself only partially materialized.
Mm.
It was amazing. It's fascinating
Yeah.
to realize, because like as I kept like replaying it over and over in my mind, I'm like, there was no arms or legs or head.
Yeah.
Like just the midsection.
Yeah. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because
Oh my
I mean, I'm
God.
sure other people have had that experience, but I
No,
haven't
I've
talked to
never heard.
anybody
I mean,
else who
oh yeah.
has.
Well, I mean, like, there's other people who have their interesting experience. Have you watched American Sasquatch yet
I don't
with
think
Dave
so. Is that the
Pilates?
No,
Sorry,
I
I
haven't seen it
say
yet.
his last name wrong. Sorry, I say his last name wrong sometimes, but it's really good, and it's gonna bring people to the present on all what they're about, and you can
Hmm.
decide. A person can decide for themselves what they want to think. Still people
Yeah.
still think that they're in the just the flesh and blood thing, but like I feel like they're both. They're flesh and blood and can come in and out of they clearly can. So, in the American Sasquatch, um, Barb Shoop, have you seen her on Facebook?
She's a friend of mine.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
So one of her experiences, and she talks about it, was she saw him walking and then like gone, like
Yeah.
kind of went like through a door and was gone. And I've seen that with a being of light. Like how like we learn like in our evolvement, like we're beings of light. And
Yeah.
I was walking in the woods. I was coming back from walking on some trails when I was in Savannah, and it got dark. It was still like this time of the year where it gets dark early. It was probably like 6:30 or something. And I was walking now back in the main part of the state park in the day use section in the forest. And I'm walking on a trail. I'm like, I'm just going to run to the bathroom really quick. And so I was like pretty far still from the bathroom. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something. Like I'm looking off, like I'm walking straight, but for some reason I'm looking right and just staring off into space. And so like there was something going on in the corner of my eye, and I look straight out ahead in the woods, and there is a human figure walking like with a good pace. It had arms and legs and a body, but it had no head. And
Mm.
it was kind of a thinner, and it was made completely of light. I
Wow.
mean, not a blob of light. This is not an orb of light. This was a human figure walking, and it was made of completely solid golden white light. It was beyond
Wow.
amazing. And it did exactly like what she says, walking, 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 and then like boing, gone, like went through a door or something. And then
Wow.
like a year later, I coincidentally met this couple. We were all on like a ranger led walk to this other part of the trail on at the state park, the same state park. It's called Skidaway State Park. It also has a whole lot of different things that's gone on the land. Like the settlers were there. The ancient people were there. Like they have found like lots of those shell middens that are like where they just pile up all their remnants of their oyster shells.
Mm.
And there was a giant sloth. Like so, paleontology,
Wow.
history, on and on. Like the before the Civil War, they went out there and like put earthworks and like got it ready for protecting that area of the land, whatever, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So we were all out there at this little like tower thing, some wooden tower that you could walk up some stairs and see the view of the intracoastal waterways, super pretty. And we're
Nice.
standing around, and all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, I turned to the couple behind me and said, I had a paranormal experience here. And they're like looking at me because they traveled around in their RV with all their paranormal equipment, and we're totally into the paranormal investigating.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. And so they brought out all their stuff to that spot where the being of light went through the doorway.
Mm.
Oh my god, everything was going off. The Ovulus was going off, the REM pod was going off. He was taking pictures and getting mists and like yeah, so
Oh,
there's
wow.
something about that spot that was like maybe like there was a portal right there.
Wow.
Anyway, so
I mean,
I
there's
totally
portals everywhere.
tangented. Yes, yes. Yeah, but I just wanted to mention about that the I don't know why I forget what you said that like made me think about it, that I wanted to share that, but
That's
um
so cool. I didn't mean to
so
say like, oh, there's portals everywhere, big deal. Not like that. I just mean they have access to portals and
yes.
yeah, like I don't
But
really know
you know
how it
what?
works,
They
but
are a spirit. So they can decide with their thought, I want to go here now. Boing, and then go.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay, when I came upon this topic, I didn't immediately start like, oh, I'm going to go listen to that person's idea of what they're about, and I'm going to go listen to that person. I wanted to learn from me and from them. And
Mhm.
then I was like, I feel like I'm going to get a chance to add to this subject. I want to help add to this what they're about. But it is very awesome, like when you come upon these different people that are very into it too, and then they're saying similar things as you, because they're in this,
Yeah.
we're all like, we're in the same sort of like range of understanding. It's amazing. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. It is very
So,
fun.
I mean, I feel like I could say, like, when I was mentioning about how very, like, within days, when I gave the green light to them, like, I want to know you. Will you please teach me, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yay, finally. And then that's, quickly when the owl vocalings, and then the man yell sound, right? I was telling you how, like, it went like, oh, like that, right? And then the guy's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, what's that? So then, like, a week later, I was, I lived in a big neighborhood called, area of residence, the suburbs of Savannah, called Berwick. And where the neighborhood I lived in was, houses, like, with very quiet, peaceful, streets. And there were woods that connected to this neighborhood, that then connected to miles of, like, wetlands and just preserve, like a nature preserve.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, a week or so after that first manual vocal, I was out in the backyard in the little sunroom, like, screened in porch, and all of a sudden I hear the same exact, like, man yell sound. Ah, and I was like, what? No, that's just some dude in the woods, right? Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but it was exactly the same tone, that same the same, like length of it. I'm like, no way. That's like, okay, can that be, right? Like, the possibility was fun to think about, like, the possibility, right? Like, wow. And I had, you go walking around the neighborhood, walking the dog around the neighborhood, and I was talking to a neighbor, and her backyard hit up against that section of the woods that then led to the miles of the nature preserve. And she had been talking about hearing all the owls. And I was like, oh, really? You're hearing owls? Hmm. That's interesting, right? When we
Mm.
know about them doing their little vocaling, talking to each other,
Yeah.
it's super fascinating. And so this was, 2019. And so, like, so I started having, like, on and, like, many, like, they just started to continue to let me know that they're there. So when I heard that second man yell, that was, like, let's say, I don't know, I'm going to say, like, July or August or September, I don't know, of 2018. Then, like, let's say October of 2018, I went camping up in, this was Savannah, Georgia, right? So you can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
like, on the map of the United States where I was. I drove up to upstate South Carolina. So, like,
Okay.
about a half hour from the border of North Carolina. And I went purposefully to this state park. I don't remember why at this exact moment, but I'm like, I want to go to this particular state park, and I'm going to try to find a campsite that's as far away from whatever people, buildings, so that I can see if I could continue my experiences with them. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And they, it was so fascinating. And so what happened is, and I've noticed that there's been, and other people have talked about this too, that they have their experience, but not all my experience. I mean, I've had experiences obviously during the middle of the day. Some
Mm-hmm.
people feel like they need to go wander around at night in the middle of the dark. I've experiences in the middle of the daytime. But I have had experiences where it was pitch black out, like zero moon. And it was like one of these nights. It was zero moon, so dark outside. And I had this really great camp spot where you have your own little cement slab for your car, and then you have your picnic table in the dirt area. And so I was sitting on top of the picnic table as the sun was just gonna start to kind of then sort of then have it, your sunset. It's sort of on that verge, that time. And I hear owl call, owl call. I hear 4 owl calls, like north, south, east, west.
Mm.
Like like strategically placed. They're one's way over there, one's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh. And it was interesting because it was like 2 vocals were the same species of owl, and then the other 2 were like a different species of owl.
Hmm.
Kind of thing.
That's funny.
Yes. So then also same thing where like it was like that time of the year and that time of the day and the exact time temperature where the insects were singing in the trees, like doing
Mm-hmm.
their thing. I can't do it, but
Yeah.
you know, this amazing sound that they all of a sudden make, and I just was in heaven. I was like, oh, I'm loving my life right now. This is so fun.
It's the best time of the year.
Yes. So the sun goes down. That they stopped after doing their 4 calling out, like north, south, east, west, or whatever they're
Yeah.
doing. And in my mind, like in my who I was thinking about, I was welcoming to have it, you know, the wanting to get to know them in my vibe, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I've decided to go stand next to my truck. So I'm standing on this cement slab, and right next to the cement slab, there was a downhill slope. And in that downhill slope section were all these little, the skinny tall pines, like skinny tall pines, not fat, not like big, not like older growth trees. Okay, that's why I wanted to say, like, it wasn't like trees that have like 2.5, 3 feet in diameter. These were the skinnier tall pines. And so I don't know exactly how long it was after they did their 4 calls, but it got dark and I'm standing there, and all of a sudden there are a bunch of owl calls in the trees right out from me, but up
Mm.
in the air. And it's like, oh, 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 like 5 or so different of them, like
Mm-hmm.
suddenly there, boing, they're there, and they're doing their little talking to each other. And then in the middle of that happening, I could hear even more like primal man, like caveman, like, oh, like
The
vocaling.
samurai chatter.
Well, just like, oh, but like even more like they were
Oh, I see what you're
communicating.
saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
I've heard oh, sorry to cut you off.
that's okay.
Um, I recently started hearing there's a juvenile that I interact with a lot
Oh,
around here,
oh,
and he's been practicing the owl
oh,
calls
I
with
love
me, and
it.
it's so great. It's funny because like you can hear the enormous lung capacity of these guys
Mm-hmm.
when they're practicing, and
Wow.
he's like, I don't know, 20-30 feet away from me, and he's all hoo hoo, and it sounds like a kid.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like a guy
Yes.
practicing owl howls, but
Yeah.
I know he's a kid, so it's like this
Yes.
enormous kid who's like hoo hoo.
I love it.
I could he's trying, and I'm like, good job, man. Like,
That's amazing.
awesome, thank
I
you.
am I
Yeah.
am really tripping out right now. I'm so glad that we're talking because we are having like similar type experiences. It's really
Mm.
cool. Wow.
Um, do you see the orbs?
I have not, okay, not outside. I have
Mm.
seen orbs inside houses that I've lived in, but not, and I don't mean like the small tiny ones. I've seen like volleyball
Mm-hmm.
sized
In the
orbs
house
like
though.
above my bed. I've had that a couple times, and then when I was in a haunted location, like when on a paranormal investigation, I did see an orb go. Oh, I'm like, and no one was paying attention. I'm like, hello, people, we're here to notice this stuff, and I'm the only one noticing, right? But no. So, have you seen orbs outside?
Oh my god, I don't know, probably 100 orbs at this point. They show up in my backyard. It's crazy, and it's like
Wow.
more. It's more prevalent in the summertime, and I don't know if it has something
Okay.
um, to do with temperature or what. But
Okay.
I'll see the twinkle lights in the trees
Yeah,
when I
like
go
it's
out
like
to.
fireflies or something, but it's not
It's
fireflies.
it's like sparkles at the top of the trees,
Okay.
and that's when I can tell. I'm like, okay, they're going to show up pretty soon.
That's
I mean,
interesting.
but that usually happens in the summertime. But
Okay.
I've been seeing what started for me was, and I won't talk too much about my own experience, but I started seeing stuff in 2019, and I was in Traverse City in Michigan on a
Okay.
vacation with my wife, and we were right off Lake Michigan, and I had gone outside to go stargaze, and I see this little light kind of moving through the stars, and I'm like, is that a satellite? Is that how that is that it must be a satellite, right? Well, it's going straight, and then it's like and go, 90
Whoa.
degree turn, and I was like, well, that doesn't seem like
Wow.
something a satellite would do. But I saw that, and then I'm sitting in a chair looking out onto the water, and there's like trees on either side of the yard, and I'm just hanging out, minding my own business, and then all of a sudden this giant orb shoots through the tree and goes over the roof of the house, and I was like, holy crap, what was that?
What
And then I
size was
look
it?
up. Oh, it must have been, I don't know, soccer ball,
Okay.
maybe
Wow.
something like that, like big, shoots through the tree over the roof, and I look up above my head, and there's this giant sparkly, almost looks like plasma, this giant orb, and I don't know if it's a light ship or what it is, but it's directly above me, and then it just like, and it's the brightest white I've ever seen, and it just slowly moves over my head and across the lake, and it took about 3 or 4 minutes to dissipate, and I was
Wow.
like, my
How
whole life was just
wow.
like crack. And
Yeah.
I came back inside, and my wife's like, how was outside? And I'm like, oh, it was all right. And that was that.
You didn't say, you didn't tell her?
It took forever to tell any of my family, because
Really?
I was,
You were
yeah.
just too blown away. You were like your mind was blown. Like you were just couldn't
Um,
handle it. You couldn't handle the
yeah,
truth.
I mean, there was that, but a lot of it is that fear of not belonging, that fear of not being
Oh,
accepted,
okay.
and especially when you
Yeah.
have family members with like mental health issues or
Oh
something,
God. Yeah.
that kind of gets a little ingrained in your psyche, that
Okay.
like, don't stand out, like you don't want to be like so and so, and you know what I mean. So it kind of just, it took a long time to come to terms with it, because I came home from that vacation and that stuff followed me. And I was living in Detroit proper, in the
Okay.
city of
Yeah.
Detroit at the time,
Oh.
and I would go outside and see this like big rainbow orb floating around in the trees above my house. I've
Oh,
seen
cool.
like triangles. I've seen like a giant red. I thought it was the sun. It was like very orange and huge, and but it was moving. And I'm like, wait, that's not the sun. And then I saw a helicopter like chase after it. It was I've seen some crazy stuff in Detroit. It was a very
Amazing.
weird place. Yeah.
Okay, I
But
am really glad that you are talking about this because I was thinking about I have seen when you mentioned about I have seen some very interesting and I would just call them like more like celestial things, but it's weird to me because they were strange. Like let's say a couple like three times I've had when I'm outside at night and this it looks like a sparkler coming
mm-hmm,
from out in the up, out, I don't know, the atmosphere, coming through like from outer space, coming into the atmosphere and
mm-hmm.
coming into like one time it went right through down into the center of a four-way intersection. I was like, is anyone else seeing this right now? What the hell is that? I've seen that like three times in
Mm.
this was when I was living in the Bay Area of California in like Silicon Valley area. I've seen that like three times, like a sparkler coming out of the sky and like coming through there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what? And like,
They look like a big sparkler.
yes, you've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah, I've come outside, especially if I see like a movie that really inspires me, or I feel just like so good. I'll come outside and there's one right over my house, and I'm like, oh, hey guys, how's it
Oh my
going? Like,
God. Okay.
yeah,
So
I
this
see
is
them a
reminding me
lot.
of more and more things. Thank you for this because I'm like, oh my God. So I had where this house I was living in Saratoga in California in the same area where it was like a meteorite came just suddenly came across up in the air, like across our backyard and like was gonna land on the ground in the next people's yard. And I'm like, what the hell did I just see? How is that? What was that? So I've seen that. And then a
Yeah.
couple times I have seen where a giant like meteor is in our atmosphere and going horizontal, like through the
Mm.
land, like up in um tree height, vert, you know, that's horizontal, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
One time I was driving on an expressway and I saw one go parallel to me, but above like the homes and the buildings that were off of the expressway. And I was on the phone and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Like, is anyone else seeing this right now? Like, I don't know if I've ever heard of it on the
I
news or
wonder if other people do see it. I don't know
it's
because
just so
I've
trippy. Like,
pointed them out to my wife before, and she's like, I don't see anything. And at this point, now she's like,
um,
I understand that you see things that I can't see.
that's so
So, I mean,
interesting. She truly, are you showing her like, look, are you
oh
going
yeah,
like,
I've
look?
shown. Yeah,
And
I'm
she's
like, you
like,
see that
what?
light in the sky? It's gonna blink 2 times, and then it's gonna like turn and fade out. And she's like, I don't see anything.
Wow.
Yeah. So now
That's,
she just accepts it, which is
oh,
cool.
okay.
It's way better than her thinking I'm totally nuts.
Yes. Well, yeah, that
But
would really make your relationship hard if she's not, you know, she's
yeah.
like, you know, that
I'm
would
married to a
suck.
crazy person. Yeah. That would
Well,
suck.
you need to, yeah. Um, you know, one time I was in Northern California, like way up on a mountaintop. Like I was kind of starting to see this guy. He was a fireman, and he would work way up on top of this like mountaintop. And he took me up there. And it was during the middle of the day, and I laid down on my back and I was just staring up into the sky. And I could see what I thought at that time was a star, like way up in the sky. I'm like, what am I
Mm-hmm.
seeing? Like, is that possible to see a star in the middle of the day? Or was I seeing
Or you're
something?
probably seeing a ship or something.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? Like it didn't even occur to me until more recently, and like literally, some months ago, where I thought that memory popped into my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk more about like UFO stuff. My first time, besides seeing these really trippy, like sparkler, weird, and like meteor, whatever things, the first time I saw like something that is like a UFO, like, you know, the typical object hovering in the sky, it was in 1986, and it was in the same, you know, Saratoga suburbs, very nice part of Silicon Valley, that's close to the hills, and like 5 minute drive to the Santa Cruz Mountains. And it was like a Tuesday night, and I was at my boyfriend's house, and he lived like 2 miles from me. And so we were backing out of his driveway. He had a El Camino, like a big old, like a muscle car, you know, and he
Mm.
had to putt along on the street. And so he lived, the house next to him was on the corner, which was like a four-way corner. But I don't think there was any stop signs. I think it was just yield, you know, because it was so, you had to drive pretty slow there. Like you wouldn't be driving fast the way that this neighborhood was set up. So
Mm.
we're putting along, coming to this four-way intersection in this little residential neighborhood. And I look up through the windshield, and like, let's say, so across the four-way intersection, and then like two houses up on the left, there is this round ball, like object, like the size of like a Volkswagen Bug, let's say, hovering in the sky, like right there. Like It was above a pine tree. That's how low it was. Just right there.
Wow.
And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
don't go any closer. I was like so afraid, like that a beam of light was going to come down and take us away. Like I literally had that thought in my mind, like, don't
Mm-hmm.
go any closer. And he's like, but I'm just going to go just past it. I just want to see what it looks like on the other side. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he just slowly drives across the intersection and then like past that house and that house and that house. And then the road curves to the right. So he curved around to the right and then made a U-turn. So now we're facing it now at that other angle. And it's just hovering. Like I have never, like at that, like I have never seen anything like that. My eyes in my reality, that's just like, what is happening? Like, you want to go, am I like, and him there seeing it at the same time, right? So it's hovering. It's not like it's stuck in the sky. It's kind of like moving around a little bit like this. And then it moved to kind of down a little bit. So now it's hovering above a different house. And yes, a helicopter flew near it.
Mm.
Yes. Out of nowhere, here comes a helicopter and it kind of flew near it and then left.
Mm.
So it's very interesting when
That's so funny.
over the years, you keep hearing about these helicopters that, appear. So
Right.
we watched it for like, I don't know, like it's that thing where you're like trying to figure out how much time went by. Was it 10 minutes? Was it 15
Oh,
minutes? I don't
wow.
know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Was it only 5 minutes? I don't know. I just was like, we were just in awe staring at this. And then, okay, so it was like silver, I think it was like a silver color. And then
Mm-hmm.
it
I've
had
seen
these,
the very same thing.
what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like it looked like a ball. It looked like a giant
Yep.
silver ball.
Yep.
And it was the very first one that I saw after I came back from Traverse City. I was in my
Okay.
house and we were living in a like an old duplex at the time, like a side by side one. And
Yeah.
it had these windows kind of at the top, like the small rectangular ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just in my house. It was a clear day. And I sat down on my couch, which was facing the window. And I just happened to look out because I saw something. At first, I thought it was a fly on the window. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Is there a fly? And then I look and I'm like, what is that? It's just staying there. It's not like I couldn't tell if it was wobbling or anything like that, but I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just a big ball. And it's just hanging out above the trees,
Yep.
like about like kind of by the street light, like the street light, and then that weird
Okay.
ball.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it must have been there for at least 5 minutes. I sat there and stared at it for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just got bored and got up and started
No way.
doing
You
stuff
just
around the
like,
house. I was kind of
what?
hoping it would go
Wow.
away. I was like, is that a drone? I didn't know what a drone looked like at the time, and I was like,
Yeah.
is that a drone? What the heck is that thing? God, get
What
out
year
of
was it?
here. And I couldn't understand. I
Yeah.
had no point of reference
You're
for
like,
what I
this is
was
too
looking
much.
at.
Like, I got to look away.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't want to focus on this right now. I don't want to deal with this. So I just
Yeah.
got up and started
Okay.
doing other
What
stuff.
about
But it was there for a
vacuuming
long
or something?
time.
Well,
Yeah.
so we were watching it. It was probably about 10 at night. And we were watching it. And then all of a sudden, so here it is hovering, just do, do, do. And all of a sudden it went, oh, wait. First, let me say that there were these lights on the outside of it. And it was like, is the whole thing spinning? Or were the lights just changing color as it would
Mm.
go around the whole outside of the ball? Like that wasn't, I was like, it was changing, like where they go to white to then red to then blue, something like that. But then, okay, so then all of a sudden, like from zero then to a zillion, it went like, and it
Oh,
like
wow.
just shot across the sky, just like Star Trek, just like, boom! I mean, it was just insane. And like
Wow.
to be able to watch it go across the sky as it was going 7 zillion miles per hour was such a trip to see like how big the sky is that I could see it going. Like that
Wow.
was mind blowing. And I remember like, I don't remember if I talked to him about, like, I don't remember if I talked to my boyfriend about this or if I thought it, but I remember like that because I ended up getting home late. And like, what am I going to be saying to my dad? Sorry, I'm late. I was watching a UFO, like, right?
Mm.
But I found out years later that many people, there's been many sightings in that area. Like there was a lady that I ended up meeting like years later who, when I was a dental assistant, like she was a patient and she lived like two houses down from my boyfriend, like at a different
Oh
time
wow.
frame. And
Mm.
her son saw a UFO in that area that was the size of a football field.
Wow.
So a whole
Yeah, I
lot of
haven't seen
stuff
anything
going
that
on
big.
in that area. And then it was in the newspaper the next day. It said light above Saratoga returns. And like whoever
Wow.
this author was of this article had talked to different people who had seen it. Moffett Field knew nothing. The airports knew nothing. Yeah, obviously that helicopter saw it, right? And so after that in my life, so many times I have seen in that area, but higher up in the sky, not as high as a satellite, but like I have seen that what you hear about, where you see only a single light
Mm-hmm.
that's not blinking and there's no sound, and it's going in a flight path that's different than the flight path of the airplanes that are coming in and out of like San Jose airport, or like the Cessnas and stuff like that. And there was even a time where I was walking with my dad. This was in let's say 2011, or no, 2010. We were walking with my dog just around the neighborhood in Saratoga, and I had, they've known about my all my trippy paranormal life experiences, for since I was obviously a little kid. And I go, "Look, Dad, see, this is what I'm talking about. Look." Because there was one, like a light just going by. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Look. And he looked
Yeah.
up and he just looked down and he didn't want to. Like, he just like didn't want to participate with that with me. And then there
Yeah.
was another time, like a couple years later, where I was in a different part of town and I was leaving my friend's house in the neighborhood. And I come out of the neighborhood onto more of the main street and I see two lights going together, in the sky, like going together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out and I'm going to follow and see what they do. And then after a while, they started separating from each other. And I was trying to get the guys in the car, like next to me, their attention so they could see it too. I'm like, hey, look, what? And the guy's like, he's like, you better mellow out. You seem like you're drunk, I'm like, whatever. I'm like, never, forget it. So yeah, I mean, I can't help now to stare at the sky like intently,
Mm.
ever since, those experiences. So back to the Sasquatch people, I have had two times now where they did that all of a sudden, like being in the trees and doing their and then like inside them doing that vocaling, a couple more, like even more like primal man like sounds.
Mm.
And so when I was camping that time and that happened, I all of a sudden had this urge to check my voicemail. I don't know why, but I did. And as I was, you punch in your code and then you're getting ready to listen, and I all of a sudden heard a man's voice say renegade. And I was like,
Weird.
"Whoa, what was that?" So I hung up the phone and then I went back through and it, like checking all my messages, not there, not there, not there, not there, not there. And so what I think is that they, it's gonna make it sound weird, but I feel like they inspired me to be doing that because then I was tuned in and listening. And then he chose that moment to have a telepathic message to me and said renegade.
I wonder what
And
that means.
well, to me, I feel like they were calling me a renegade, but like in a good way, because I'm like that
Mm.
person. Here I am. I'm out there by myself. I'm doing my thing. And they were choosing to come over to me. And when they were doing their vocalings, I had such an urge to want to go toward, like it drew me to them, but I couldn't get any closer because there would be a downhill slope. So I could only go to the edge of the cement slab and just stand there and be like, wow. So like, yeah, so that was, I feel like them calling me a renegade. Like, but it was
Hmm.
said in such a, I thought it was an advertisement call, like a man doing an, you know how like sometimes you check your voicemail and it's like partial advertisement call one three
Yeah.
three whatever, right? But it was such said in such a renegade. It was such a
That's
robotic man's
so strange.
voice. Like wow.
Yeah.
So just I've like I want to make sure to talk about some really unique ones that where like we get into like where I feel like they have shapeshifted to look like animals so that they could be able to make eye contact with me, but to but doing it in such a way that it's not freaking me out and making me run for my life, if that makes sense.
Mm.
When
Mm-hmm.
I went to Montana for 6 months in 2020, and I heard the same man yell vocals twice. Like I heard a call out, ah, when I was camping in a lake by a lake, and then there was a response man yell like, oh, and I'm like, no way. This so in four different areas I've heard this same man yell, and I was wanting to show you this chart that I have with it, which you might already know, but I wanted everyone else to see too, like how each chakra corresponds to a color, which corresponds to a tone. So like the heart chakra, which I was saying earlier, is this the tone that you do with your voice when you're doing energy healing, is ah, that same exact tone, like ah ah. And the tuning fork
Mm-hmm.
that you use is F for the heart. So I feel like, they know what I've been dealing with in my life, and I feel like there was this them putting that frequency out to help healing for me in my life in the heart chakra. I know that's going to sound weird, but oh well. I don't think it's going to sound weird to you,
I
but
don't think it sounds weird.
I know it doesn't sound weird to you because you understand energy healing, but um so I've had different times where they've thrown rocks near me, not to scare me, but to let me know that they're there in different ways, which I don't necessarily need to go into anyways. So I wanted to tell you about some, like, early on I was saying that I have been shown very early on the interdimensionality, and that this world that we live in, that there's way more going on that you can experience than just the five physical senses, world. And so um when I had this experience where um the rocks were thrown, and then they were showing me be like a deer, and like kind of saying like, I don't know if you should be here right now, I think you should go, type feeling. And then um gosh, there was something I was trying to there was something I was going to say. Oh, I know. I was literally reading a book called Interdimensional Sasquatch. The Interdimensional Sasquatch. Like when I
By
had that.
Kalani.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Have you watched the documentary called Sasquatch Speaks?
Um,
If you
I don't
haven't,
know.
it's
I might have.
it's very
I.
good.
Okay.
This so that everyone knows, it's like a 4-part or 3 or 4-part documentary where he is interviewing at like a conference different people who have had very like wonderful connections with the Sasquatch people, where they're offering relationship, like friendship or healing, or it's all the really good experiences, and I love those. Are my favorite like stories. Like, so if people want to learn about the Sasquatch people and get in that understanding of the them as a people in that way, look it up. You can totally find it on YouTube, like, and then it'll be like, I think like it'll say like part 1, part 2, part 3, or something like that. So anyways, I wanted to just say that. But So yeah, I think it's very interesting, and like probably not a coincidence that I was reading, that book when all of a sudden this rock, these different three rocks went in the water right in front of me and in the river, and then I turn and look and there's a deer behind me, and I really feel like that deer was a Sasquatch person
Mm.
and making himself look like a deer in order to get close enough to me to make eye contact with me and to say to me, like, I don't know, it was letting me know that it was there. Like it was snorting at me, and I was like I was kind of mimicking the snorting back, and I was saying, "Hi, I'm Tricia." And I had my parrot with me and I had my dog. It was my birthday also, which is very interesting. It was like my
Oh, nice.
50th birthday when this happened.
Mm.
So, okay, so I'm going to go back to 2019 to when I was at that Blue Sky Preserve nature trails, and where I had gone out there and I'm like, oh wow, I was really seeing like them doing some rearrangings of the trees out there. Like I'd go out another time and I'm like, wow, it's different looking now here in this
Mm.
section of the forest. Like they did some new stuff. Or I'm now getting to see that I didn't see before or whatever, right?
Mm.
So this one day it was like, oh, okay, so when I would say like, please teach me, I want to learn, and I would start having these sort of these sort of almost like being taught, like the downloads of information, like I was saying earlier. And sometimes that would happen when I was in the shower. And so I had this urge to go out there and walk around off trail in this exact location that I had decided, like, I want to go on this trail and then I'm going to go off trail at this exact spot. And I want to see if I could hear any vocals out there at, just for fun.
Mm.
And I had this urge like to wear my rain boots, which is weird because I've literally like years of my life hiking, trail running, mountain biking. I went to school for park management, like learning how to truly backpack, and survival stuff. I had never in all that time ever felt like wearing rain boots to go hiking, but I thought to myself, well, maybe when I go off trail, I will feel like going way off trail and then I'll come upon some standing water. And then this way I won't get my feet wet. So
All right.
I wore my rain boots. I, I I parked in the parking lot of this nature preserve and I went on a trail that, if you can imagine, that is shaped like a horseshoe that's laying down. So when I was going out on the trail, the first part of the trail was the right side of the horseshoe.
Mm.
Okay. And then, so
Yeah.
now where I decided to go off trail was the center of the horseshoe. And as I'm curving around to the left and coming up to the center of the horseshoe, I went off trail to the right. Can you visualize that? Okay.
I think so. Yes.
Just like imagine you take a horseshoe and it's facing down. I know this isn't a horseshoe, but like
Mm-hmm.
pretend. And then you lay it down flat. So I walked in on the right side of the horseshoe, and then the center of the horseshoe, I went up off trail up here. Does that make sense now?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So right there though, I noticed that there was a branch like jammed into the ground right in that spot. And people have talked about seeing this before. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing this. There is literally a branch stuffed into the ground right here. I'm going to go off trail right here.
Mm.
So I walked off trail, and it was let's say I was only like 30 feet off the trail. And I had my dog with me, Lucy, she's totally off leash trained, and my parrot, my macaw that you met earlier. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, gonna be out there for a little while, and then the sun was going to start going down. I'm like, okay, I'm not hearing anything out here. I'm going to order my pizza from standing like right here, and then get off the phone, go back to the trail and walk back to my car and go get my pizza.
Okay.
So the sun went down pretty quick. And so from that spot where I was standing off trail, I decided to kind of walk straight from there to the trail. So I was a little bit off course from where I went in, but not a lot, just like 10 feet or something. So somewhere between as I started walking back to the trail, I ended up somewhere else. Like instantly I was we teleported like into to another section of the forest.
Mm.
And the sun was starting to go down, and it went down so fast, and it was so dark out there that I couldn't see. It was so dark. Like you try to use your flashlight on your phone, and I'm like blinded. Like I can't see. Like I can kind of see, okay, there's Lucy right there. But when I was walking back to the trail, there was no trail. There was no trail all of a sudden. And what I did see, the landscape was like, there was all of a sudden now I was in standing water, like that was like
Mm.
3 inches deep.
Yeah.
And there was this fallen, really tall, like really long, 4 feet, not 4 feet, like how, like a big tree down on the ground like that. It was not there when I went in. Like it was, my mind was trying to wrap my mind like, what is happening right now? Where am I? What the heck is going on? I'm in a totally different, like, where am I? I yelled out help. I'm like, I called my friend. I'm like, I don't know where I am right now. This doesn't make any sense. I can't, how can I not find the trail? And so in my mind, I was thinking I was standing very close to the center of the horseshoe. That's where
Mm.
I thought I was, because I couldn't make sense of the fact that, like, how am I all of a sudden in standing water? Where is the trail? How did this giant big tree fall and land right here all of a sudden? Like it was not making sense. So I thought to myself, okay, I can see through the trees to the highway way down. Like I could see like headlights going
Mm.
back and forth on this like 2-lane highway. I'm going to walk straight, but I'm going to kind of veer left, cuz I'm like, maybe I'll hit into the parking lot first, or I'll get to the highway and then I'll go and, like, make it and get home and like feel like, okay, life makes sense again. I made it to my car. So I'm thinking I'm walking now straight down this way. That's what I'm
Mm.
thinking I'm doing. So I'm bushwhacking through the woods, heading to the highway. And
Mm.
like, so here's the highway, and there was a ditch. And so I'm walking, I get to the highway, and I'm right here.
Oh, weird.
So what happened is, when I was up
You.
here and I'm walking, and and all of a sudden I went boing, and I ended up right here. And so now I'm walking through the woods in the dark, the headlights, and then I got to the ditch, and I start walking this way because the parking lot is right here. So I end up hitting into this other side of the horseshoe, and I'm like, what the actual F is happening right now? This is my reality happening right now. Like,
Ugh,
oh my
man.
God.
Yeah.
That is by far the trippiest thing that I've ever had happen to me in my life. We teleported. My bird
Oh,
was on my
man.
shoulder, and somehow my dog came along too. I don't get that part. I think the possibility that, okay, so then, this is where you try to make sense of it, right? So did I find a portal and that it spit me out in that spot? Or this is another thought that I have. They were showing me how they travel. They were showing me a way, one of the ways that they travel. They just go boing. So they're like, okay, you want to learn? Okay, we're going to teleport you. And I feel like they wanted to see how I would react. Like, how will I handle this crazy experience? Will I stay calm? Will I freak out? Will I, whatever. And so that happened. Okay, so I get to
Wow.
this part of the horseshoe, and then I go back up into the nature preserve, and then there's a trail that runs parallel this way to the highway, and then it took me back to my car, and I was like, whoa. And so I've posted a video on my YouTube channel, like describing the experience. And this guy said, he commented, he's like, you're lucky you didn't end up in outer space. And that, I was like, that's just freaked me out. Don't. And somebody had asked me, like, around this time in my life, if I had heard about David Paulides. And I was like, no. And I kind of knew, but I didn't want to know at that time. I was like, I didn't want to be freaked out. I didn't know exactly what, people were going missing about. I didn't know what that was. And I didn't want to get it in my head, because I enjoy the woods. I enjoy nature. I didn't want to get scared.
Yeah.
So, but then, I finally got to where, okay, I do want to know. And I'm like, have totally gone down the rabbit hole and totally, drinking the Kool-Aid of, David Paulides, like totally into it. Like, I get it now. But yeah, I was like, to think about that. And I think he was saying that was, I could have been abducted, right, possibly. But I don't think that's what it was. I think that they were giving me an opportunity to really experience how they live, how they, what they do, how they move from here to there. Like, they can just go from here to there. So it's either that we did go through a portal and then it spit me out right there in that spot, or they teleported us. But either way, we teleported. It happened.
Ugh, that is terrifying.
It's insane. Like, it wasn't like, I don't know. I'm so glad I got to have that experience. It was fascinating, And so when people say, like, this idea that, are the Sasquatch people just flesh and blood? Well, I'm flesh and blood, and I teleported. My animals are flesh and blood, and we teleported. So why can't it be both?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a few conversations with Christopher Noel, who I'm not sure if you know him. He's an author. He's written several books
Oh,
on the Sasquatch people. One is called Mind Speak. That I'm reading
okay.
that right now. He was featured in the Flesh of Beauty documentary, but
Okay.
he has this. I have conversations with him, and he kind of goes back and forth between being okay with the whole multidimensional aspect of this subject, and then
Okay.
sometimes he's like, well, maybe it's just the ghost Sasquatch that are doing this. Maybe it's not the ones that are alive. And I'm like,
Okay. Hmm.
why
Hmm.
do we have to hash this out? Can't we, like, let's just have the experience. Like, we might not ever know
Yes.
what they
Yes.
are, who they are.
Right.
We
It's
very
right.
we Yeah, we might
I know
just
what you're
not
saying,
know.
because sometimes, like, they're like, well, what do they eat and how can they do it? And I go, I don't spend my time caring about that. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know why.
It's none
I
of my
don't,
business.
I don't care. Like, I don't need to get caught up on that. Like, I think it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting. Like, why do some people see them carrying deer or ripping the head off a deer or this or that? But like, I really do feel like they spend time in another dimension. Like, I just do.
Yeah.
And then, so earlier you were talking about seeing the footsteps and then them choosing to show you those footsteps, right?
Hmm.
So in 2002, I was living in Helena, Alabama, which is central Alabama. And I moved up there in 2021. I was living in Pensacola, Florida. It's pretty flat here. And I was missing being up in higher elevation. I had been in Montana for 6 months, then Pensacola. And I'm like, okay, I need to move up higher in elevation. And I was also missing like connecting to the tree people. Right away, they started letting me know that they were there, like in so many ways. It's like, it's such a, like, I really feel the pull lately too. Like, come up and see us. It's like 4 hours north of here. So I was living in a house in a nice neighborhood, and in the hardwood floors in this section of the house, the main floor of the house. And I felt like getting up early in the morning for some reason. Like, I am not that person. I'm not that person to get up early in the morning for like no apparent reason and walk out into the family room. Why that? I don't know why. It was a rainy day, and that main floor had an upstairs balcony, like a wooden deck with stairs down. So there was a door that led out to the backyard. And I walk out into the family. This was probably like at 6:30 in the morning or something. I'm not exactly sure. I videoed like right when I saw what I saw, so I could look and see. But I saw two wet footsteps. One was facing like right the back door, like inside the house, but like right on the threshold, like right by the threshold was a footstep. And then near, not, well, kind of near like the entrance to the kitchen was another footstep. And so in my wanting to learn from them, and then in my I feel like that around the United States, I have had the chance to meet different ones, but I also think that there's this possibility that there's one specific one that's with me, like a spirit guide almost, or like a, or he just chooses to kind of be with me sometimes and then not other times or something like that.
Mm.
So when I have talked to different people on podcasts, I have said, what do people think that they're hopping around on one foot in the woods? Because how can you explain like that you only find a footprint, like, right, like, hello, like there's obviously clearly them coming, choosing at times to step down and like make a footstep, and other times not. That seems like a
Right.
duh. I mean, like it's like a logical thing to me. I don't know. So as I am filming, I'm wrapping my mind around what I'm seeing. The footsteps are drying at two different rates of speed. It wasn't like, and at first I thought, if you imagine like a bodybuilder guy, and he's got the bar above his head and he's standing with his legs really far apart and he's doing a squat. So I'm imagining that his right footstep is the one that's by the back door, and his left footstep is kind of near the kitchen door. That's what I was thinking at first. But then the more I looked at my pictures that I took, and going over and looking at it in the days to follow, they just stayed there on the floor, the oils and the toes and stuff. I'm like, wait a second. Those are two right footsteps. It's just the right foot step.
Mm.
And you can kind of see that he's literally like on the ball of his foot. You can kind of see on the one that's, I didn't send you any pictures and all that. Sorry. Like, if somebody wants to go and look, you can find them like on my YouTube channel, Exploring the Paranormal with Tricia Brown. I have the video. And then on my YouTube, on my Facebook page, Paranormal, Spiritual, and Mystical Experiences, I have posted pictures and stuff there. And so if somebody's interested, I will happily send the pictures, because I want people to see it. And so I want people to see it.
Okay.
So like the footstep that's by the back door is is slightly more wet than the one that's closer to the kitchen, because like you have to kind of really look to see. Like, I'm really happy I walked out when I did, because it was continuing to dry, so the one that's closer to the kitchen entrance is more drying than. So here's what he was showing me. There was so many things he was showing me in this. He was showing me coming in and out of the house interdimensionally. It was a rainy day, so his foot was wet. And look, I'm hopping on one foot. Look at me, I'm hopping on one foot. And so, like, a sense of humor,
Oh yeah.
a
He has
sense
a
of
great sense of
humor,
humor.
and telling and letting me, like, that also lets me know he's been hearing me talking about this. Like, as I'm saying this to people, like, what do people think? They're hopping around on one foot? Like, get a grip, people. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, look
Yeah.
at me, I'm
I know
hopping around
they.
on one foot. And you can see, like, this line, like, where, like, maybe his foot kind of came down and then went back up again. And now he's like on the, because you only see like this part of the footstep, the
Mm,
toes, and like the ball. It's so fascinating. And they're slightly smaller. They're not like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, they're ginormous in size. So it could have been a juvenile. It could be a juvenile.
probably was. Yeah.
Because I put my foot down to show, like, this is not my foot. Here's my skinny foot with my long toes. And then it's more of a, like a wide, um, rounder, um, footstep,
Mm,
type thing. So, oh, I just love it. Like, it just, like, I I just love it that they keep showing me that they're there, as time goes on. Like, the
yeah.
last experience that I had was here in Pensacola. There's a trail system that goes like miles and miles of trails that are attached to the state, to the college, to University of West Florida. And I'm walking on the trails, and in front of me, someone put like a teepee structure right in the center of the trail, like a really small, tiny, almost like someone's going to make a fire, like with the way you build your little like your pieces of wood. And I'm like,
Mm,
and I didn't even think about it right at the moment. I was like, oh my God, what is somebody doing? Like, blocking the road? Like, are they trying to mess with the mountain bikers or something? So I moved them out of the way. And then, like, it occurred to me, like, they were like, hello, that was for you, dummy. Like, we were leaving that for you to show you that we're here too, type thing.
yeah.
And then, so what I do for years now, when I go out in the woods, I introduce myself, or I say hi, like, hi everybody. I literally, like,
Me
whatever
too.
my eyes can see, I'm saying hi to. I'm saying hi to the trees. I'm saying hi to the dirt. I'm saying hi to the whatever, the clouds in the sky, or the leaves. And I say, hi leaves, hi clouds, hi trees, that kind of thing. I say, hi, I'm Tricia. I say whatever animals are with me, this is Blue, this is David, type thing, right? And then I say, I would love to have fun with you, or like, let's have some, I'd love to get to know you. I'd love to have a fun or funny, or, if you want to, if there's any beings of light that are here, I would love to say hi. If you want to say hi to me, type thing, right? And then all of a sudden, this rock, or, little pebble, came from behind me and landed in front of me, like, boing. Okay, hello. And then in front of me, there was a bush, and the branch, like, it was as if someone took the branch and, like, and moved it. So that happened.
Yeah.
And then I had my first out there, the rock clacking,
Mm,
clack, 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 like, just off trail about, let's say, 10 to 15 feet from in the middle of the thick woods that you can't see what's in there, but like this rock clacking, clack, 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 clack. And then boing, like, he went farther away. And then I could hear in the distance, clack, 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 like, showing me, they've shown me in so many different ways their interdimension ability. They're just
yeah.
teleporting from here to there and coming in and out of this. Anyways, it's just fascinating. I could go on and on and on, but, like, so it's
Yeah.
been, thank you for letting me share. I mean,
Absolutely.
I
It
love it.
was it was an awesome chat. We've talked for over almost 3 hours today
No way.
between
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, okay. The two
between
calls.
earlier
and
and
I
now.
told you I could
I
go
should
for days on the subject. I think, I mean, we could,
you
so
weren't
thank
lying.
you. I mean, like, and then I love getting to hear you share and you're having, like, your experiences literally are happening in this like present time. Like, like
Mhm.
you're continuing, they're continuing to let you know that they're there, like, I don't know, yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
with him, like,
A few weeks ago.
practicing his vocaling to you, like,
Yeah.
oh, that's
I know.
amazing.
It's it's I don't know. It's a trip for sure. Yeah, absolutely. All
Okay.
right, thanks Trish. I
Thank
thank you.
you.
Many blessings. Thank you
Yes.
so
Have a good
much.
night. Sleep good.
You too. You too.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Oh,